Through a Voorhees he was born, and only through one may he die. Jason Goes to Hell stars John D. LeMay, Stephen Williams, Kane Hodder, and is directed by Adam Marcus. Okay, now it's time to review one of the most controversial Friday films, and I'm looking forward to digging into this one. I actually just finished watching this. I haven't watched it in years, so I kind of have some mixed feelings, so you might be a little surprised by this review. Now, I'm not going to give it Trapped on an Island. You don't have to worry about that, but let's get into it. So after Friday the 13th Part 8, Paramount pretty much gave up the rights to the Friday franchise. I guess time had ran out, and so Sean Cunningham actually secured the rights back, but there was one caveat. He could not use the name Friday the 13th, but he could still use Jason or Jason Voorhees, because if you remember, Jason wasn't a big part of the first movie. It was his mother. So it kind of surprises me with the franchise, you know, in his hands, that he chose to do a movie that makes the viewer think that this will be the last Friday the 13th. The movie is called Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. And I think he had no intention of actually making this the last Friday movie. I think this was a big cash grab to get viewers to watch this movie. So Jason Goes to Hell is such a unique story. It's completely different than any other Friday movie. As a matter of fact, I would go ahead and say that this is not really a Friday the 13th movie, except for the Voorhees name. Right at the beginning of the movie, they blow up Jason. They kill him, or at least the Jason that we know and love. And so early in the movie, we find out that Jason is really more of an entity. He goes from body to body to body throughout this movie. This is something that had never been hinted at before, or really since. Director Adam Marcus was really young at the time. I believe he was around 24, 25 years old. Like the previous director in Part 8, he wanted to try something different. And he really went overboard with how different he wanted to approach this. If you watch this movie, it's really ambitious actually, and there's a lot going on, and that is part of its downfall, because you are watching this movie because you're a Friday the 13th fan. I think if you went into this movie not being a Friday fan, watching it like a completely different movie, you would walk away a lot more satisfied. And that's exactly what I did on this viewing. I said, you know what, I'm gonna put this movie in and I'm gonna act like I'm not watching a Friday movie. I'm just gonna put it in like a horror movie. There is a movie very similar to this called The Hidden that director Adam Marcus had never even seen. And in The Hidden, it's about an entity that goes from body to body. And that's kind of how I approach this. And you know what? I actually think that this is a better movie than, you know, Jason Takes Manhattan. Is it the best Friday movie? Hell no. I mean, it's still way down the totem pole. But as far as like a director with a vision and actors and even practical effects, I think this one does have some things going for it. So first, let's start out with the good. I actually did enjoy how ambitious this script was, and it did keep me interested pretty much most of the way through. There are some speed bumps along the way, like the beginning scene with the coroner and he eats the heart, and I thought they just got a little bit too graphic with that scene. As far as blood and guts, I'd say this movie is a big step up from the previous couple of Friday movies. It's really gory, it's really bloody, especially the unrated version. As a matter of fact, speaking of practical effects, there's one scene where a cop takes on the form of Jason, and Jason leaves his body, and then his body starts decaying. And that scene really looks like something out of John Carpenter's The Thing. And I really appreciated the work that went into that scene. It looked like the practical effects team really wanted to make a great effort. And I think the proof is right there on the screen. But unfortunately, that is just one little small scene in this hour-and-a-half movie. Also, there are some pretty decent kills in this movie. The first one that comes to mind is the sex scene in the tent. And this scene is kind of infamous because the couple that was having sex in the tent, they had recently broken up in real life. And so, to their surprise, they had both been cast in this role. So they had to get naked, and I'm sure that scene must have been pretty awkward. But that kill is pretty crazy. It's probably one of the most violent Friday kills I think I've ever seen. The Jason or Jason entity, he thrusts a signpost into the lower torso of the female and rips it up through her shoulder. Pretty gruesome. I also like the one scene. It looks like it cost probably $2 to film this scene, but it's when the female goes to get into the car and Jason takes the car door and slams her head into it real quick. And I thought that scene was just really funny. Also, I have to talk about the very end scene when we see Freddy's hand pop up and grab Jason. I saw this movie in the theater and I remember when that scene happened, that was pretty much the greatest scene in the whole movie. Everybody cheered, but unfortunately we had to wait over a decade to get Freddy versus Jason, but that was still a really cool scene. And finally, I gotta talk about Creighton Duke. I thought Creighton Duke was a really cool character. Stephen Williams really played him like a Boba Fett type character. He was a bounty hunter. And I thought he added some much needed weight to the story. But there's one thing that kind of confuses me when he tries to help Stephen get out of jail. He breaks his fingers, and I just didn't think that made any sense. How does that help the story move along? They made it kind of seem like he was trying to boost Stephen's confidence, but still, it really makes no sense because this character is pivotal to helping Creighton Duke in the nightmare that is Jason Voorhees. So to me, that was really stupid. Okay, so now we're gonna get to the bad. We're gonna talk about what sucks about Jason Goes to Hell. First off, like I said, this is not a Friday the 13th movie. Like I said, it's got the characters, but if you go into this wanting a Friday movie, you're gonna be extremely disappointed. I can compare this to Halloween 3. So many people went into Halloween 3 and they noticed that, hey, where's Michael Myers? People were pissed. Fortunately, Halloween 3 has developed a cult following because that is actually a good movie. Whereas Jason Goes to Hell is a riddled mess. Also, I did not like that they focused on the character of Steven in this movie. He was the quote-unquote final girl, or final guy, I guess you could say. His acting wasn't too bad, but the look of him really kind of bothered me. He looked like an accountant, and he's wearing kind of a football jacket. So there was just kind of this dichotomy with his character that didn't make sense. So it was hard to root for him. Also, the characters are hit and miss in this movie. The characters that played Jason's family, I thought they were interesting, but pretty much everything around them was kind of unneeded and kind of boring, except for Creighton Duke. And the hillbilly characters were downright annoying. Also, I have to talk about homoerotic shaving. More than any other Friday movie, this movie has a lot of male nudity. And I am not a homophobic person. If you like male nudity, more power to you. But the demographic for Friday movies, for the most part, is heterosexual males 18 to 49. In the scene where Jason is going from the coroner's body to the cop's body, why he had to get him naked and shave him, I do not understand it. It's a hard thing to watch and you cannot get it out of your head. I wish I could tell you the timestamp that scene is on if you haven't seen this movie, so you can just go ahead and skip right over it. Because even if you are a gay male, you still probably won't like this scene. So all in all, I thought Jason Goes to Hell was better than expected. And I'm gonna give it a humdrum. It's still a riddled mess, and one of the biggest problems with this movie is it's not a go-to Friday movie. I rarely, if ever, want to watch Jason Goes to Hell. I have to put myself in a mindset that I'm not watching a Friday movie. I'm watching a regular horror movie, and then I can usually put it in. So anyway, guys, what are your thoughts on Jason Goes to Hell? I'm sure there's one or two of you out there that actually really enjoy this movie. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. And guys, we only have a few more Friday films until all the Friday reviews are in the can. I've had such a great time doing these movies with you, and I'm looking forward to moving on to the next horror franchise, which will probably be Nightmare on Elm Street. And by the way, I've already reviewed Nightmare on Elm Street 1, so you can check that one out, but I'm looking forward to moving on to the rest of that series. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to Drum Dums, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and Drum Dum out.